Bitcoin is crashing again, and we're looking into the background of what's happening. However, Eric Trump says to HODL, you should hold on to your Bitcoin and not sell. Check this out. The president's son is saying HODL here, after just recently saying to buy the dip. And he timed the dip pretty well here. But now, let's move on. What is much more explosive is that we still have 24 hours until the next massive announcement from Donald Trump, which is currently going strong. He's saying there's going to be a massive announcement coming. There's supposed to be another announcement today, an investment announcement. Here, we already have some initial speculations about what it could be. So, we have just a few hours left until this announcement. We're looking to see if this will have an impact on Bitcoin. And now the big announcement is supposed to come tomorrow. Many are speculating about the strategic Bitcoin reserve, but it's probably not going to be the strategic Bitcoin reserve. There are already some initial leaks suggesting that it could be something else that also affects Bitcoin and might even be more significant. We're looking into that as well. Then there are massive closed-door meetings in China, as it seems they're discussing setting up a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This is incredible because we're already seeing the first effects just from Donald Trump's tweet, where he announced, okay, we're going to create a crypto Bitcoin reserve and so on. And now we're seeing closed-door meetings in China. It seems there are already two sources now. At first, there was only one source, but now it looks like there's a second one claiming this. Right now, these are all just claims, to be honest. But it's really crazy what's going on here. First, let's take a look at why Bitcoin is being sold off right now. And we're just skyrocketing up with the Valhalla candle. Let's fucking go. And now everyone thought that when the markets in the US opened, it would shoot up massively again. Because the crazy thing was that this was going to be announced on Sunday, the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and the whole Wall Street couldn't get in on it. But as it stands now, there was exactly the opposite effect. There was a rare news event, meaning Wall Street didn't buy into this event. Instead, they sold off. Here, massive positions are being liquidated. So, let's first take a look at the chart. We can already see the candle going down. We've already dropped about 5,000 or so. Here we see 120 million in liquidated long positions in the last 60 minutes. Or if you're watching this video, it's not just the last 60 minutes, but let's say the last 120 minutes or something like that. So here we see just what a lot of people didn't expect. Most people expected, okay, now Wall Street is coming in to buy up the whole thing. Now we've seen the opposite effect, or maybe some of you expected it. A little pullback isn't so bad. It might drop a few thousand euros, but when the reserve comes, we can already assume, as we've seen in Donald Trump's tweet, that there's going to be a massive spike up again. So, every cent that drops right now is actually a good opportunity to scoop up some cheap Satoshis. But before we get to Donald Trump's announcement and the closed-door meeting, let's take a quick look at Eric Trump, who just tweeted something really interesting. Because first he tweeted here, yeah, that was on February 25th. He tweeted here during the dip, saying to buy the dip, and now he's actually tweeting, you're welcome, my friends. Hopefully, I've made someone's life a little bit better. Well, my advice is to hold long-term, so HODL Bitcoin. And I say, hey, here's the little Bitcoin hodler, HODL Bitcoin. That's always a solid recommendation for the long run. By the way, if you want to buy the hodler, just check out the Bitcoin Hotel shop down below. You can get this awesome hodler that has now made its way to El Salvador. It'll definitely bring you even more gains in your life, no doubt about it. Better karma, more clicks. Absolute recommendation. Or if you have kids to give it to, that's always great for gifting. Look at how big his head is, almost as big as mine for sure. And it's even a special edition, limited edition with the block time on the back. Let's go. For sure, it's not just the hodler who's hodling, but Eric Trump is hodling too. He says don't sell. Not selling is also what Michael Saylor always says, don't sell your Bitcoin, just hodl. And he's already understood a fundamental principle with Bitcoin, which is that you buy Bitcoin and hold it long term. And trading is often penalized if you just go in and out and so on. Unless, of course, you have insider information, then trading can make sense again. Some people have actually accused Eric Trump of being the one who placed a long position, or whatever long position it was, I can't even remember anymore. Someone placed a long position right before Donald Trump's tweet and basically started insider trading because he might have known that the strategic Bitcoin reserve was coming in and took on a massively high leverage. Now, some people have actually said that Eric Trump is the one who traded all of this, because first he said to buy the dip, and now he's saying to hodl. Maybe he knows something that others don't, but that's just speculation. There were actually a few people who, for example, said that this all has to do with Bitwise. So, there's the Bitwise crypto index, and it includes exactly the following cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and ADA. And those were basically the ones that were also announced in the reserve. And some people have said, okay, maybe it has something to do with Bitwise or something behind this whole story, because they might have had insider information beforehand. But in my opinion, it could just be a coincidence, so let's not overinterpret it. And now we need to look at Donald Trump's announcement. He just announced something really, really big, saying, President Trump, just now tomorrow will be big. So, it's going to be really, really big. The White House has also just announced that President Trump will be making an investment announcement later today. So, we have two announcements, and one of them is happening in 24 hours, which is tomorrow. And the investment announcement, I actually waited a bit longer to release this video because the investment announcement has actually just come out. I need to add something here. The investment announcement hasn't been officially made yet. There's just some kind of leak or something that supposedly claims this was the investment announcement. Anyway, there's a tweet claiming that this is supposed to be the thing, or there are several people saying that now. We'll take a look at what this leak is supposed to be, but the official announcement will probably happen during a speech or something like that, and it's supposed to be at a certain time. Many people have speculated that something will happen with Bitcoin. But no, nothing has happened with Bitcoin. Instead, we are seeing the following. And we have just seen that Trump and a Taiwanese chip manufacturer TSMC are announcing a $100 billion investment in the USA. So we see that there is now a merger between the USA and Taiwan. That is exactly what I meant, which is not yet official, but which is potentially to be published later, because apparently it is not entirely true, but apparently it is only the forecast and that will then be confirmed later. They are now launching a massive chip program here. It really has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's always like this. When Donald Trump announces something, everyone thinks it's about them. The Bitcoin folks think it's related to Bitcoin. The XRP people think the XRP reserve is coming. The Solana crowd thinks something's coming with Solana or whatever. In the end, it has nothing to do with anything. But he did say, let's take another look at the tweet. Tomorrow night will be big. I will tell it like it is. So, I'm telling you how it is. Tomorrow is going to be really, really big. And now a lot of people are assuming, okay, he's already tweeted about the crypto reserve, and some think it's going to be released on March 7th. Because that's when the crypto ball is. Some people actually believe it's going to come out tomorrow. I don't expect it to come out tomorrow. I have to be clear about that. If it does, then I'll be surprised, and that's okay. But there are actually still insights, and that could have something to do with it. But it's also just pure speculation. It must also be said, here Marty, US President Donald Trump will be inaugurated on March 3rd. Discussing the possible suspension or complete elimination of military aid to Ukraine, including the weapons promised by the Biden administration, according to the New York Times. So it seems he's also considering today, probably with other people, to cut all military aid. And it could be that this gets published tomorrow. Or maybe he already thought about this today and then tweeted out, hey, something really, really big is coming tomorrow. And that could really shake things up because it would have an impact on the entire financial market if all military aid is cut. It'll be really interesting to see how the market reacts because we're talking about billions of dollars that won't be sent to Ukraine anymore. So, that means it's likely to strengthen the dollar if there are simply fewer expenses. That means that is precisely the idea of the Department of Government Efficiency, that they really look at America first. Cut off other countries, stop providing aid to them, cut USAID, cut other things. Cut everything. That means you have less spending, the budget is better balanced, you have a smaller deficit, and the dollar is strengthened. If you have fewer expenses and less debt, that means long-term interest rates, like the 10-year rates, will go down, making the dollar more attractive again. That is the idea of the Department of Government Efficiency. We need to keep an eye on it. But please let me know your thoughts on what will be announced tomorrow or in 24 hours. Is something massive coming? Does it have anything to do with Bitcoin, or do you think it'll be nothing and has nothing to do with Bitcoin at all? Or maybe it won't even be a big announcement. Anyway, we've got an exciting summary of what's been happening lately, the latest from the BITART letter. Here it says, first, President Trump is launching his own meme coin. Second, the SEC drops the lawsuit against Coinbase and others. Third, according to the SEC, meme coins are not securities. Fourth, the US is considering shifting spending to blockchain. Fifth, President Trump says the US should be a leader in cryptocurrencies. Sixth, the US is establishing a strategic crypto reserve. Is this the biggest shift in sentiment in crypto history? This is a little summary from BITART letter, and I find it very, very exciting how things come together here, how one thing leads to another, and how the USA is now opening up very, very much to the whole topic. And it actually looks like that, because there were always doubts. Okay, will Trump keep his promise? Will it really be the crypto stronghold? Will it really be the crypto capital, but with a little distance and maybe? It just took a little longer, as many people suspected, but now it looks like he is actually more or less keeping his promises here. And now we have the crypto reserve, and check out what Brian Armstrong has to say about what this will do to the price, with the crypto reserve and the Bitcoin reserve, and where the price is going to shoot up. Brian Armstrong has also advocated that this shouldn't become a shitcoin reserve, but rather a real Bitcoin reserve. I should mention that this clip isn't super recent. It's actually a week or two old. But check out what he says about where the price is headed once it's officially declared as an executive order.
I think over time we'll see Bitcoin get into the millions, multiple millions price range. I mean, It's being adopted by more and more institutional customers. The ETFs brought in a huge amount of inflow. If we get clear legislation passed in the US, that would be a big milestone. A strategic Bitcoin reserve. If the US took that path, probably the rest of the G20 would follow. In fact, I've discussed with a number of finance ministers here in Switzerland from different countries around the world, just the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. They're getting more interested in it now because the US is looking into it. So I think Bitcoin has a long way to go. It's going to be the new gold standard out there. And crypto is really much bigger than that, too. It's about payments. It's about economic freedom and many things else.
So he makes it very clear that it's not just going to rise a little or anything like that. We're going to hit the millions range. Once everything is solid and locked in, and once that thing is officially in place and an executive order is signed, or however it gets rolling. I'm not really sure about the legal side of things, whether an executive order is needed or if it can be implemented in some other way. Then Brian Armstrong says, hey, millions for the Bitcoin price, and other nations will follow. That means the Bitcoin price is going to keep rising because FOMO is going to kick in. And he also says, hey, it really only makes sense to create a Bitcoin reserve and not a shitcoin reserve or anything like that. But I would say that many people have already given their 2 cents on the matter. Some say, okay, we need a crypto reserve, while others insist, we absolutely need a Bitcoin-only reserve, and so on. So, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments about how you see it. Do you think a Bitcoin reserve or a crypto reserve is better? What do you prefer here? And then we had the story where David Bailey actually said that China is currently, or not just currently, but since Donald Trump publicly brought it up, holding closed meetings to accumulate Bitcoin. So this is about holding secret meetings to basically discuss, hey, a strategic Bitcoin reserve, does that make sense for us? Does that not make sense for us? And here China is already at the start and they seem to be really, let's say, on their guard, because Donald Trump has always said, hey, our big goal is to get here before China. So that China doesn't outpace us, that China doesn't end up becoming the crypto powerhouse, but we want to clearly be the crypto stronghold. Maybe Donald Trump already has some insider information that makes him think, okay, something's going on in China. They know something, and they're already preparing for a strategic crypto reserve or a Bitcoin reserve. Marty Party even says that there are already 2 sources now. So the first source is David Bailey, who I just mentioned. The second source, I tried to research it, but I couldn't find anything about who the second source is supposed to be. Feel free to let me know in the comments if there's a second source claiming that these closed-door meetings are happening. It's worth mentioning that it's a rumor that David Bailey has put out into the world. I mean, David Bailey is Donald Trump's advisor, so he's probably not going to come out with all this bullshit or anything. But there's still the possibility that he might not. Be honest, that he could be making something up, that he might be fabricating something or something like that. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Very, very interesting, for sure. And now I have seen a very, very good calculation here. For example, people are saying, okay, we're going to create a crypto reserve or something like that. Stephen Labaka from Swan actually made a really solid forecast that I find quite accurate. That means, let's assume that we now really have a reserve here, a crypto reserve with 80% Bitcoin and 20% shitcoins, and that in 2025, then in 2027. We will turn it into a reserve that contains 87% Bitcoin and 13% shitcoins, because the shitcoins will simply depreciate against Bitcoin. By 2029, we'll have 96% Bitcoin and 4% shitcoins, and by 2030, we'll be looking at 99.99% Bitcoin and just 0.001% shitcoins. And that is potentially the outcast that could come our way, which I certainly assume will happen because we simply see that shitcoins always outperform Bitcoin in certain periods. But if you're not trading that and instead holding it as a long-term reserve, then you've got a big problem because Bitcoin is going to massively outperform the shitcoins. But hey, if you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll drop a link below to 21 Bitcoin, where you can easily, safely, and simply buy and hold Bitcoin. And here, with the code BitcoinHotel, you can still get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin if you want to purchase something at 21 Bitcoin. Here you can find savings plans, auto wallets, transfers, a ton of cool stuff, limit orders, and so on. So folks, until next time, peace out.